Hello, everyone, and welcome to Marvelous Movie Mondays with Kelsey and Dill. We are your hosts with the mosts, or hostesses with the mostesses, whatever you want to say. I am Dylan,
And I'm Kelsey.
and we got an exciting episode because we finally wrapped the season finale or series finale of Captain America and the Winter Soldier. Um, as we found out, the real name of the series was, well, some people have different theories as to what that last title reveal was. Whether it was applying to this series or whether or not it's setting up a future series or a future movie, maybe, perhaps. But we'll get there when we get there. Season one is wrapped. I mean, the series, it's technically supposed to be a mini series. It's done. That's it.
hmm
So we have to talk about that. But first, as always, Kels, we do have news.
We do.
Yeah,
We
and we
got
got some good news. Yeah.
we got some exciting stuff this week. We got the first look at Shang-Chi coming out on
Yeah.
September 3rd, I believe is the release date for that
Nicely
movie.
done.
Thank
Got that in
you.
your
It's
brain. Nice.
yeah, it's a blessing and a curse, this memory of mine.
It's hard because
Um
there's so many things coming out and so many dates, and then you have the pandemic, which is pushing dates. So it's like,
mhm.
in my mind, Shang-Chi is still coming out in 2020, and we're already in 2021. So like, I'm just in a totally different universe. I'm Loki
You're
in his own year, stuck somewhere else.
in a multiverse, if you will.
Exactly.
This whole
Um,
past 2 years have felt like a multiverse, to be
Literally,
honest with
it
you.
does. Like there are poster collectors right now are thriving because there are so many movie posters with dates that didn't come out, and every time
Mm.
they push a date, there's a new movie poster. So there are people out there who can like probably make a lot of money on like a Top Gun Maverick poster of summer 2020 in like a few years from now. I want to try to get my hands on some of those Marvel posters where it's like Black Widow May 2020, and it's like, whoa, no, that's a year before it actually came out. More than a year, because now it's pushed to what, July?
Black Widow you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, July 9th.
Wow. Yeah. So again, like we said, we do have news, and we will be talking, of course, about what we're going to do in the off season because we're going to have 6 whole weeks where we won't have anything to talk about in terms of new content. But before we do, Kelsey, let's talk about your news about the Shang-Chi trailer. What were your thoughts?
I loved it. I thought it was sick. I literally
Hmm.
everyone who texted me about it, my immediate message back was, "That looks sick." Just like
Yeah, I
the,
think you
like,
texted me the same thing.
taekwondo slash, like, karate slash whatever, like, martial arts
Hmm.
style fighting they're doing. It looks so interesting. I mean, we didn't get much from it, and I don't know much about this, character or this storyline or what goes on in the comics books for them, but I definitely am gonna look into that for next week. But what we did get from the trailer was basically like our main character, our protagonist, has basically been living a seemingly normal life, just in maybe America. It looks like he's a part of this like dynasty almost of like fighters or warriors or some sort, and we hear this narration of maybe a father figure, if you will, because Marvel loves their father figures.
Hmm.
um talking over the action sequences saying, "I've let you live your life long enough. Now it's time like you claim your destiny," or
Yeah.
whatever it is. So it's going to be, and then he's fighting on the subway and we get a taste of Aquafina's character just asking him, "Who are you?"
Right.
So it looks like it's going to be a whole
Yeah.
lot of fun. I'm so excited for this film.
I
I'm so
mean,
excited for like a new character. It feels
right,
so
exactly.
refreshing.
Exactly. Like these series have been so fun because we know these characters and we could dive into them more. But like there's something so beautiful about, the first time you experience these characters, like the first time you see Doctor Strange or the first time we saw, Black Panther and Spider-Man and Captain America Civil War. It's like these moments where it's like you're never gonna get that first impression again unless you're the Hulk or War Machine. You're never gonna
Mm.
get that first impression of like, oh, brand new actor in the franchise, let's see what they do. Um, I forgot to mention my set. If you're watching on video, is totally Oscar-fied because we are in the midst of Oscars. It's Oscar weekend. It just wrapped yesterday. Where we're recording it, the Oscars have not happened, so we can't say anything about the Oscars because they haven't happened when we're recording it. But when you're listening to this, the Oscars were last night. I have a video coming out after this of my reactions to the Oscars. But this kind of segues to my news. There is some more Oscar caliber actors coming to the MCU. One is more of an Emmy actress, and one is an Oscar-winning actress. Secret Invasion has been one of the coolest, most hyped up things coming to the MCU. Obviously, we saw teases of it in WandaVision. There may be some hypotheses about there being some scrolls in this series that we are going to talk about,
Oh,
Falcon
okay.
and the Winter Soldier, or sorry, Captain America and the Winter Soldier. But we are getting two casting rumors, and I think they are confirmed. The first is Olivia Colman, who played Queen Anne in The Favorite, won her Oscar for it, and then
Mhm.
played the Queen in The Crown,
Mhm.
and is getting nominated all over the place. And she is going to be joining Secret Invasion, which is so cool because she is not the typical person you'd think of as like, an action hero.
Mhm.
But that is pretty cool. She was just in The Father. She's Oscar nominated. Maybe she won last night. Who knows? We don't know. Um, yeah, really cool getting Olivia Colman. And then the next day they dropped another casting for Secret Invasion. That is Amelia Clark. She is the Emmys player I was talking about. She played Daenerys Khaleesi in Game of Thrones. So
Mm.
we have basically royalty, literal royalty. She played a queen in the Oscar world and Emmy world for The Crown, and then you have literal TV royalty with Khaleesi in Game of Thrones and Amelia Clark. So this is really cool. Just two actresses finding their way into the MCU somehow. Kelsey, any reactions? I know you haven't seen Game of
Wow.
Thrones, but
I haven't watched Game of Thrones. I thought the name of her character was like Dionysus.
no, that's the god, the Greek god of theater.
I don't. Oh. That's where I got that name from them. But I thought
um,
her character name started with a D.
it's Daenerys, yes.
Oh, that.
But
Okay.
they call her Khaleesi, the mother of
Okay.
dragons. There are multiple
Oh,
names,
okay.
depending on the group of people calling her by her name. But yeah, Amelia Clark is joining, which she hasn't had the best track record with film. But I think, is Secret Invasion a television series or a film? Do we know?
That I would have to.
Yeah, I'm not
I'm
sure. I
gonna
think
say
it's a
it's.
series.
I think it's a series as well,
Yes.
but I can fact
Um,
check us right now.
Yeah, I think it's a series. Because she hasn't had the best luck with film. It's not her fault. It's just she's in movies. There was a Terminator sequel she was in. She was in Me Before You, which was like, I liked it, but I like that kind of shit. And
Mm,
and then the
right.
Last Christmas, which I think is the worst Christmas movie made in the last 20 years. Is
Oh
so.
no.
No offense, I mean, but when you take a lyric, I mean, I don't know if you're gonna watch it or not ever, but if you take the lyrics to Last Christmas and literally make a movie about it, but then like make it seem like it's this big twist, but in actuality, like it's all in
It's.
the song. It's
Oh.
it's weird. Watch it. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it in
Okay.
December when you watch it.
Okay.
Don't watch it
Fine.
now. Anyway, great casting. But we're here to talk about the season finale because that's
Mhm.
really what people are coming to see. So, Kelsey, give me your immediate just thoughts of the season finale, maybe the whole series as a whole.
I loved it. I loved it because there was more moments that I was just found myself just being so happy that to the point where I was brought to tears like multiple
Hmm.
times throughout
Yeah.
watching it. It just made me so happy to watch this happen for this character and for this community. I was just like so excited throughout the entire thing, and I'm excited to see like where this Captain America goes, you know? I'm excited
Hmm.
to see
Yeah.
Sam Wilson. It was just so exciting. I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm really giddy about this season
I
finale.
think that entrance where he comes in through the window. I mean, that is so
Mhm.
cool. Like seeing him. And I was wrong. I mean, I had a prediction that the wings were done. Like we're done with the wings. We're moving on to the suit. I didn't realize he would also have wings. So now he's almost a, I wouldn't say a better version, but he's almost like Captain America 2.0 in terms of like he's got these wings. Like that's an
Yeah.
extra advantage. Now you can fly. Like dude, like that is so cool. Like I'm just very excited for that. I know I was saying it's just a regular suit in the box, and Joaquin was going to be the new Falcon. We
Mm.
didn't see any of that stuff with Joaquin. It's my problems about the finale are the same problems I've had with the series as a whole. It's like trying to figure
Okay.
out why it is a episodic series and not just a big movie. Why don't they just make a movie? And I think the episodicness works for it and against it. I think it works for it in the fact that there are minor characters that get more time, like Isaiah. I don't think we would have gotten as much Isaiah stuff had it been just like a 2 hour, 2.5 hour movie. I think because
Mhm.
of this, you get a lot more of that. But at the same time, because it's episodic, you know, every episode, you kind of have to watch them in conjunction with one another. It's not like WandaVision where each episode kind of felt like its own unique, special thing. And I think that's
Sure.
just the nature of series in general. Is like a lot of series that are made to be binged. They release all the episodes at once because they're meant to be binged. But here, like Stranger Things, but here it's like every single week you have to wait for another one, and it just doesn't have the same sort of feel as WandaVision in terms of episodicness. And that's just been
Sure.
my issue the whole time. But I do think they did stick the landing very well. I do think the second half of the episode was stronger than the first half, just because I think the first half was, your action sequence. It was
Mhm.
action. But the second one is really where we got, again, a lot of those amazing conversations about race in America, and just the current political issues. We got like some teases for what's to come in the future. I thought it was a very solid episode, though. Good finale, all in all.
I
So
agree.
yeah, so let's give the viewers or listeners your little recap. This is the last recap we're gonna have for 6 whole weeks, so you got to make it good, Kelsey.
All right, I tried to. A lot happened, so I was trying to fit in as much as
Right.
I could. All right. Sam makes his debut as Captain America as he and Bucky struggle to save the GRC from the Flag Smashers. Sharon's true identity is revealed. Bucky makes amends with Yori. Sam gives Isaiah Bradley a exhibit in the Captain America Museum, and John Walker is given a new name.
So it's not New Cap anymore. But is this
No.
better? Is this worse? We'll get there when we get there.
Yeah, we
So
will.
off the bat, before we get into the actual recap, one of the questions, a few of the questions we had answered right off the bat. First, what's in the box? We knew it was the suit, but it also had the wings, so we are both kind of right. Zemo, he was there. We did see him. He wasn't like a big part of the action, but we did get to see one last glimpse of him. And
Mhm.
then another question we had was Steve. And I think this has been the looming question all season. Is Steve actually gone, like dead, or is he just gone as they know him and as we know him, and he is still living his life as older Steve somewhere? And the thing is, we still don't really know because they didn't
Yeah,
say
I
anything.
think they're leaving that open-ended for a reason, though.
Maybe. I just feel like Marvel wouldn't keep it. They would give us a definitive answer. They just always have, which is
Yeah.
why I'm a little skeptical. I think right now I'm leaning towards he is actually dead, and they just didn't give us a funeral scene for some reason. Also because that Spider-Man Far From Home has that little moment montage with him too.
Right. I was thinking about that today, actually. I literally thought about that exact moment in the In Memoriam slideshow in Far From Home, and I think that it's probably just because, like, right, to the rest of the world, I think they think Cap is, dead, or to their understanding. I think that's
Right.
what the rest of the
Cuz
world thinks.
cuz
I
young
think
Cap went away. Yeah.
right, because young Cap is now Grandpa Cap. So I think since they haven't heard anything about him or anything, they're probably like, "Oh, well, he's gone," you know?
Mm,
And I
yeah.
probably think that his immediate friends like Sam, Bucky, the rest of the Avengers probably know where he really is. And honestly, like he's probably just pulling a Thanos and is retired somewhere and a farmer and hanging out with the love of his life,
Yeah.
Peggy. So
Well,
I
she's
think we
dead
should
though.
just
We know she's gone by now, right? Cuz she's still in her own timeline. Like
no,
she died at Civil War.
I think that he went back to a new Peggy in a different time in a new timeline so that they
Mm,
could be
okay.
married.
Maybe. Yeah, that
Like
I
I
don't know.
think
Yeah.
that timeline Peggy who died during Civil War is dead, but he is with a new Peggy,
Oh, maybe. Okay, that's a good idea. Yeah, I didn't even
you
think
know?
about that. Yeah, but anyway, we really don't know yet if Steve is dead or alive, and I don't think we will know. I don't know if will ever know. Because Chris Evans is not coming back to the MCU as far as we know, but they could
Mhm.
always get him in the future. I don't. You're right. They may not want to close the door on it because if he ever does want back in, they want to be able to like have him back. But then again, like if he wants back in, they're gonna find a way to get the young Cap back in. They're not gonna want old Cap. So it's
Sure.
interesting. But I thought we'd get a definitive answer. I thought honestly, I was expecting the moment where Isaiah walks into the memorial. I was expecting Steve to also be there. Like that was where I was like when he turns the corner, I'm like, oh, okay, it's gonna be Steve there, but it wasn't. It was the statue. And I think honestly for Isaiah's story, that makes more sense, obviously. But like
Yeah.
that's where I was like, oh, this is where they're gonna say like, oh, he's old and he's gonna thank Isaiah for his service, and then like that's gonna be it. Um, but it wasn't. I thought that would have been a good opportunity to do that if he is still alive. But I get it. They are keeping it open ended for now. A lot of people are like sold like, oh, he's dead, but I just feel like they would have said the D word if he
Yeah.
was actually
No,
dead.
I agree.
Um,
I agree.
because yeah, Spider-Man: Far From Home made it very clear it was not Tony's gone, it's Tony's dead.
Mm.
I feel like they'd be clear. But anyway, that was a big question that was looming over kind of the whole series that we wanted answered that we still haven't gotten answered, kind of. So now we can actually dive into the episode itself. Now that that's squared away, because that was not brought up at all. So let's go through it.
Alrighty. It was hard for me to kind of break this one down. My notes
Right.
are literally quite literally all over the place.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna try our best. So we start off right where we left off with the GRC being infiltrated by the Flag Smashers. You know, the SWAT team showing up. NYPD is there. Bucky shows up. And he asks, I love this because he says into his little earpiece, "What's the plan?" Which is like the first line, not the first line, but like one of the first lines he said
Hmm.
during the first episode. And Sam didn't even have a response to that. Where now, 6 episodes later, he asks, "What's the plan?" And Sam actually has one, which I thought that
Right.
was like a nice, like, callback moment, full
Hmm.
circle. Like, they're all right. They're a well oiled machine now. They're working together nicely. They're, clearly not going to depart from each other's lives. We see Sharon shows up in America. She's disguised herself as like some generic looking man, and she's basically there to help. Even though I didn't think she was, even though I kind of left off last week more with leading towards she's her not being the power broker. The moment I saw her, I was like, "Oh, she's there to kill Carly." That is the only reason why she's there, is
Right.
to literally take down Carly.
Hmm.
Um
Well, and
uh
the reason why you thought she wasn't was because she sent someone to go work with them. But as we
right.
later, and that was my idea,
And it
was I think
was
she sent someone to be a spy on the inside, and
right.
I'm taking pride in that because
Yeah,
I definitely got that.
you can have a
Um,
point for that, Dill.
but
I'll give you that.
you do get the props, the kudos for episode 3 calling that she was a power broker. You called it from the very top, and I don't know if that's the cell phone theory, which if you want to hear it, go back to our last episode. It's great.
Oh,
The
yeah, yeah,
iPhone
yeah.
theory.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I assume you heard about that after the fact. So like you had that intuition from the top. Um,
I don't know, just something felt fishy about her.
yeah,
Something felt
and
off.
we'll get to Sharon after this recap. I kind of want to go character by character and just kind of talk about their whole,
Sure.
because I think there's a lot to say about each person individually. But yeah, keep going.
Love it. Let's do it. So then we have Sam burst through the window. We see him like stars and stripes and all. He's
Hmm.
got the suit, he's got his wings, he's got the shield. Someone asks him, "Who are you?" And he cuts him off immediately and goes, "I'm Captain America." And I
Yeah.
was just so excited. I literally, oh, I was tearing up. I,
And
I
I'll
loved
tell you
it.
one thing too. I watch with subtitles, obviously, because I have major hearing loss in my right ear, so I of course
Okay.
need the subtitles there to spell out what's happening. And I watch, and I when he's off screen, whenever a character is not on screen, they have to put the character name to let you know who's saying stuff off screen. And whenever he speaks off screen during one of the battles, it says Captain America. It does not say Falcon. It does not say Sam. It says
Really?
Captain America. Yeah. So in the subtitles, it says Captain America. I'm gonna make you cry on a Monday morning, but
Oh my
that's
god,
that.
my heart can't take this. I was just so excited. I'm still excited. I'm living off this Captain America high right now.
Right.
Um yeah, for a multitude of reasons. So then the French guy and Sam start fighting. Carly calls Bucky. She has one of her Flag Smasher buddies has this they have this phone call together where they're talking about, he's like, "I've been in your shoes and it never ends well." And she's like, "I don't care if I die, like, I'm fighting for something that's bigger than me. Haven't you ever fought for something that's bigger than you?" And I'm like, first of all, take a seat, Carly, because how dare you talk that way to Sergeant Bucky Barnes? Okay, first of all. Because second of all, the first thing I thought was, because he says, like, "Yes, I have, and both times I did, I fell." And I was thinking back, I started to think, I was like, what is he referring to? Like, okay, he fights in World War II alongside, whoever. He falls off a cliff and gets captured by Hydra. Okay, that's one. And then the second time he fought for something bigger than himself, he was on the battlefield in Wakanda. What happened to him? Dusted. So obviously he's like a little tired of fighting for things bigger than himself because he's keeps losing.
Yeah,
And
that's
the
fair.
and the first time he lost, it was worse because he didn't lose, he was captured, brainwashed, and then made into a monster that he's been
Right.
trying to overcome since the beginning. So that made me a little mad. Obviously, now we found out by the end of the call that it was all just a ruse to distract him. Um, Oh, then we see him run out to we see that the Flag Smashers are taking the senators hostage, so they have, leverage to make compromises and whatever. He runs out to a parking garage to save them, and I just wrote down motorcycle Bucky. It just like brought me back
Yeah.
to Bucky in Civil War, so I was like,
Hmm.
"Yay, motorcycle Bucky!"
Yeah.
Um,
I love that shot of him just like leaping off the motorcycle too. Just yeah, that is
yeah,
so cool. It was in the trailer, but I loved it even more in context. It was
yeah, yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Yeah.
100%. So Sharon kills a guy that who's pretending to be security. She just simply bumps into him, straps something to the inside of his vest, blows him up with some gas. It looks
Yeah.
like
That
super
was pretty
smooth.
badass. Pretty badass. Yeah,
Yeah, I
that was a
know.
cool
It was
maneuver there.
it, yeah, it was just so smooth.
Hmm.
We cut back to Sam who's fighting with the French guy, and let me just say he is working that shield. He knows how to use it. I was just so excited for those
We're
combat
like proud
moments.
parents. We're
No,
like, oh
literally.
yes.
Because, like, Captain America, like, I've been saying this from the beginning, like, out of the core, like, 6 Avengers, like, Cap is, like, my favorite, like,
Okay.
by far, and it's just
Yeah.
because he's always been the moral compass. He always does things for the greater good. It's never for himself, it's always for others, and I just always admire
Hmm.
people who think that way, probably because I need to think that way a little bit more in my own personal life, but we won't unpack that here and
I was
now.
gonna say everyone has like a favorite Avenger because they have semi personal attachments to them.
Yeah.
Mine is Hulk, and like now that I think about it, it's a lot like like the Hulk part I don't relate to, but the Bruce Banner part, like definitely this awkward kind of like antisocial kind of like dad jokes here and there. Warm teddy bear, but then like the Hulk part, not really. I'm more Professor Hulk. Like, yeah, you want a picture? Yeah, say cheese. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Here's a taco.
So it just feels so good having, like, your favorite character be replaced by someone who's just equally as deserving as having that
Right.
title, and that's
And
why
I
this is just so exciting for me.
and I think a lot of the series was to get because there were some fans, even personal friends of ours that I know that were like, really, like they're gonna give it to Sam just because Sam was never really a huge character in the MCU. He was always the
Sure.
sidekick, but like even amongst the Avengers, like he had the wings, and it was kind of like what else? To a lot of people, I always loved Sam. He was always a top five for me. Like it's interesting because Wanda and Sam were always in my top five Avengers, and now
Yeah.
everyone's finally like, oh my god, Wanda and Sam, and I'm like, I've always been on that train. It's always been
Right.
Hulk, Wanda. Sam was always number five. It was Captain Marvel and then Drax. Like those are my five. So the fact that everyone's finally getting on board with Sam, I'm very happy. But there were people who were a little disappointed that he was given the shield. Like, oh, what's gonna happen now? Either they were like super gung ho with Bucky, like it
Mhm.
should have been Bucky, or like, oh, why did they even do it anyway? But I think this show was a really good way to not only make Sam comfortable with holding the shield and like ready to take on the Captain America title, but also
Mhm.
kind of getting the fans on board. It's kind of
Yeah.
saying, hey, like this is how it's going to be, and here's you accepting it. You need to accept it, and like I think now everyone is on board. Like no one watches this series and by the end is like, yeah, but it should be Bucky, or yeah, but I don't know. No,
Yeah.
everyone is fully on board, and I think that is one of the strengths of the show is Sam and Bucky themselves, like their character arcs, like everyone leaves a fan of both of them, even more so than they were before,
Yeah,
which I think is important.
100%. I mean, I was one of those people after Endgame who walked away and was kind of like, "Oh, why didn't he give it to Bucky? Like Bucky's his best friend, you know?"
Yeah,
Like I definitely did feel that, but upon like really thinking about everything that Bucky's been through and like he's done being a soldier. He's done fighting and he's done doing it especially for other people because that was what he had been doing for
right.
a big chunk of time.
Hmm. Yeah.
So obviously, like that thought that, oh man, it should have been Bucky thought has, like you said, Dale, has gone completely out the
Yeah.
window. I've
You
never
were
been more
you,
excited.
you were a lot less hostile about it than some others, but we'll talk about that off air. But
Well, I also think that some of these clowns out here are making this argument that it should have been Bucky and it's very like racially charged, which I'm not here
okay,
for
yeah,
at all.
yeah. I don't think it
So
was that, but I just know people.
I
We'll talk
mean,
about
like,
it.
I don't know anyone personally in my life who's been like that gung ho about it being Bucky over Sam, but I just know the internet, like, as a whole.
Right.
has, there's
Oh
obviously
yeah.
going to be those people that are like, "Eh, eh, eh," and
Yeah.
like,
Mhm. And I
idiots.
also think giving him a new suit too, and still keeping the Falcon part of him, I think it does kind of make him unique enough where it's not just like Captain America as a title, but he is his own Captain America too. It's not like
Hmm.
he's putting on Steve's costume. He has the shield, but that's the only kind of similarity in terms of style and presentation he has. It's
Hmm.
very much his own unique thing. Sorry. So
No, yeah, totally. I wrote down I literally one of my notes is he's like the perfect combination of Tony and Steve in a
mhm,
sense where not like personality wise,
right.
even though he does carry on the ideals and values that Steve had, he's this great balance of like he has all these like fancy gadgets. We got the return of Red Wing during this
Multiple Red
helicopter,
Wings, a lot of little
multiple
Red
Red
Wings.
Wings. He
Yeah.
has all these fancy gadgets. He has his wings, so it's kind of like Iron Man, but he has the ideals and values and belief system
And
that
Shield. Yeah.
Steve had.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Mhm.
he's like this great combination of these two characters that have retired or died.
Or
Who's to
both.
say?
We don't know because
Or
they won't tell us.
both. So Carly's team further questions her when she suggests that they kill the hostages. They have this moment where she says one world, and it takes them a minute to kind of be like, yeah, one people, they're kind of like, oh,
Oh.
I don't think this isn't great. I didn't really sign up to like kill people. I just didn't want to be displaced out of my own country. Um, Really cool saving the helicopter. My notes are literally all over the
Yeah.
place.
It's
So
cool.
Sam
Yeah,
has this
yeah.
epic like helicopter moment where he
Mhm.
sends Red Wing to see who has flight training. It takes him a second, a few tries, but he finally like gets the shield to hit the pilot who's has taken it hostage, and the woman who he's come in contact with jumps forward to like save the helicopter. And I was like, that was just really cool concept, really good
Yeah.
smarts, you know.
100%.
um we see Sam save two pilots, two like NYPD pilots, it looks like. He rescues them, puts them on a bridge, and then like the entire bridge of a crowd of people sees him as Captain America and cheers him on, which I thought was like a really uh cute moment. We see John Walker show up with his tape and glue shield.
Which
Um,
I love how quickly that became just smashed to shreds, like
yeah,
demolished.
it
It
was
was
just like
so
one
funny.
hit. It was like,
One
and I
hit,
was
it was
like,
gone.
yeah, yeah, because you
Mhm.
made it out of freaking aluminum, my dude. What did you think was gonna happen? He once
Yeah.
again gets his ass beat by the Flag Smashers. Um, while the John Walker's taking on all the Flag Smashers, Bucky is trying to save the hostages out of like a truck that's now been set on fire because once again, Carly's just off her rocker. So he saves them, and then as a man exits the vehicle, he says, "Thank you for saving us." And I just feel like that was such an important line for Bucky to hear. I literally wrote down, which is a nice change. Someone thanks Bucky for saving them, which is a nice change of pace for him. He's like being thanked for being one of the good guys and not,
100%. Yep.
having to deal with all of his trauma, obviously. Um, Carly drives a car to the edge of a cliff and it's like hanging by a thread. Meanwhile, Bucky's down below fighting um Dovich, I think his name is.
You would
And
know
I,
better than me.
there was this one moment, I just wanted to bring this up because there was this one moment where Bucky was looking up as at the car, like dangling in front of him from the scaffolding. And I just thought, oh my God, Bucky's thinking right now, I'm gonna have to catch this damn car, aren't I? I'm gonna have to save these
Right.
people. But in a moment I never thought I'd see, John Walker decides to do the right thing for once in his life, and instead of going after Carly, which he clearly wants to do, he chooses to stop the car from going off the edge of the cliff. Obviously, he's not that successful because Carly starts attacking him. He doesn't, get it completely out of the woods, and we see Sam saves it. And from a crowd of people of onlookers, excuse me, someone says that's the Black Falcon, and then another man says no, that's Captain America. And I'm
That
like,
was cool.
oh, tears, you're gonna kick me
It
while I'm
was
down right
it
now?
was one of those
Okay.
moments where when I first heard it, I was like, "Oh, come on!" Like that's so cheesy and on the nose. But now I'm like, you know what? No, we needed that moment. Like that was so good because
Do what? I thought that everything about it was perfect. I don't know.
No, it is.
I'm
It is
sweating. That's how
perfect, but
excited I am.
it's so perfect, but it is very like straightforward, matter of fact, like it seems like right out of a comic book, which I like. It's not
Sure. Okay.
it's like the whole it's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman. It was
Oh,
very much
okay.
that type of thing where I was like,
Sure.
oh shucks. It was an all shucks moment. I loved it.
Okay.
No, I'm on board with that.
No,
That
I
was a great
loved
line.
it because
Yeah.
I think it's important for people to instill that this is Captain America,
Oh,
you know?
100%. Yeah.
Like, I
It
think
was just yeah.
it needed to be said, but
It
I
was
get what you're
so
saying.
it was cheeky. It was it was great. I liked it a lot.
No, I know what you're
Yeah.
saying. So then we have this Sharon and Carly fight. The Flag Smashers disperse from Sam, John Walker, and Bucky, who John Walker has now started fighting alongside Bucky and Sam because they started running. Like three guys started running in the fog, and I was like, "Who is the third guy?" I literally couldn't see. I was like, "Is
Ugh,
that Sharon? Did she come? Did she find them somehow?" And I was like, "Oh my
no.
god, it's John fucking Walker! Are
Yeah,
you kidding me?"
we'll get there at the end. We'll talk about John Walker because I just have thoughts about him in this episode, just like what they did with his character in this
Sure.
episode. Some weird choices, I
Yeah.
think.
No, I
But we'll get there.
agree. I
We'll get there.
agree.
We'll get there. Yeah.
So, Sharon and Carly have this kind of standoff. They're pointing their guns at each other. We find out that Carly was once working for Sharon. And we find out in the biggest plot twist of all time, Sharon was the power broker. And I say
Yeah.
that very sarcastically because everyone kind of felt that her character was very fishy and that she was definitely up to some shady
You saw
stuff.
it coming from the start. I think a few people like it took maybe an episode later for them to really catch on. Like, oh, it
Sure.
might be. You had it pinned from the start. What I thought was the funniest thing is because I think Marvel sometimes forgets that we are smart. As viewers, and after she said, "You're
Sure.
the power broker, I'm the power broker," the French guy comes around, "You're the power broker?" Like this whole
Oh, okay.
come on, you don't need it just seemed a little bit like audience in case you didn't get it the first time. She is the power broker. Like this is
Yeah.
a big reveal, and it's almost. And we'll get to Sharon later when we talk about each character too, because I think there's certain payoffs that worked in this episode, certain ones that necessarily didn't really pay off as well as they should have.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, that moment, you're the power broker. Like, come on.
Yeah. So you're the power broker. Now I
Yeah,
charge you more money, like
like
whatever it was.
God.
So we find out that they didn't end up working that well together, like Carly and the Flag Smashers and Sharon, because they had two different, visions for the world.
Yeah.
Carly just wanted to change the world and get her message out there, where
Vision.
Sharon wanted power and she wants kind of revenge on a world that took away so much of her life and everything. So
Right.
and we kind of got a taste of that in the power broker episode when she
Mm-hmm.
says to Sam and Bucky, like, they screwed me over, like they completely cast me out, forgot about me, like this is how I've been living my life now. So like, what do I owe like the US government? I don't even want to be pardoned.
Right. Yeah.
um Sharon kills the French guy because she's like, I'm not dealing with this anymore. Boom, kills him. At the same time, Carly shoots Sharon, and then finally Sam shows up and Sam and Carly fight. We see that John Walker and Bucky capture the other Flag Smashers who've been on the run by using the app, and they don't fight them. They just kind of like draw the SWAT team to their location. Um,
Mm-hmm.
as this happened, when John Walker reveals himself, he quotes Abraham Lincoln. Um, I didn't write down the quote. It was something about like
Yeah.
mercy, something like that. And as they walk away from that, Bucky says, "Really? Like you quoted Lincoln?" And he's like, "Great man, great quote." And Bucky was like, "Not when you say it."
I mean, I was gonna say the wasn't at Lincoln. Like Lincoln's a great man, but
No.
it was the John Walker being like, yeah, a great man. Like I'm gonna be also a great man. It's like
Yeah, it's like
I have a lot of issues with John Walker in this episode. We'll get there. We'll get
no,
there.
I agree. So then as Carly and Sam are fighting right at the end, Carly pulls her gun on Sam. She's really about to pull the trigger. Like she's ruthless, this girl. But right before she can, Sharon shoots her
Mm,
and she dies in Sam's arms.
like
Um
instantly too. Yeah.
yeah, so Sam carries her out of that, kind of abandoned building they were in and takes her right to some medics where there's all these newscasters, the senators are there. They thank him. They're like, "Thank you so much for saving us, Sam," like whatever. and he has this epic monologue where he just kind of puts them in his place and is like, what are you doing? You all need to be doing more. Like, obviously this movement, this girl died for this cause. All of these people teamed up with her to take down your organization and you guys, and no one ever bothered to ask why. Like, maybe you are doing something wrong and maybe you should go about what you're doing differently. And they're
Mm-hmm.
just like, you don't understand. And he's like, what he says, something along the lines of, I do understand, because we all have a common struggle now. And I feel like that was just such a powerful line. And we cut to Isaiah Bradley watching the news report, so he's like taking in everything that Sam's saying. um and another line that I wrote down that I thought was like just so important for audiences, and obviously like the characters in the TV show to hear, but also for us to hear, was, every time I pick this thing up, referring to the shield, I know a million people are going to hate me for it. And it was just like kicking me right in the shins.
That whole speech, just
No, it's so good.
one after another, just
Yeah.
perfect writing, I think. And
Yeah.
one of my friends pointed out, him, Patrick, pointed out, that this is like a very centrist speech. It's not one way or the other. It's not left. It's not right. It's very
Mhm.
much just like, this is a speech that I don't think is gonna like, have one or the other side disagree. It was very respectful of both sides, because a lot of the times when shows get political, a lot of people will say that was either, way too far left or far right. And again, like, a lot of shows do want to make that very clear statement, left or right. And I think this was a good way of like kind of having that, middle ground,
Sure.
kind of speech from Sam. And I thought it was a very impactful speech. I think that was the highlight of the episode,
Yeah,
save for one moment, which we'll
100%.
talk about later. Yeah.
Also, like, with Marvel and Disney, like, I do feel like they're, we've what's the expression I'm looking for? We're dipping our toe, really,
Yeah.
in like the kiddie pool, basically, of
Yeah.
how far we can push like this kind of agenda of like these horrible things, like, that just should not be happening. All these racially charged
Mhm.
incidents and innocent killings and police brutality, like everything
Right.
along these lines, like, just should not be happening. And
And I
they're
think that's
doing
one of
what they can. And I think that what they did with this speech was really good, but I definitely think that, we can always be going further
oh,
with what
100%. And I
we
think I think
do.
the thing with Disney is it's, they've sugarcoated things for so long that it's like we
Mhm.
love Disney because it's like that childlike imagination stuff, but it's like we've never really dug deep into like these kind of issues before, and we're finally seeing with like, Star Wars and Marvel, they are taking on these more mature properties, and I think they are starting to kind of gear toward a more mature, um the body of work, in general. I
Mhm.
think Soul is a good example of a movie that is a kids movie, but really, like, if I watched it as a kid, would I still like really follow and understand it? It's really just an animated movie for adults, and like, yeah,
Mhm.
it has some gags where it's like kids will be like, "Oh, that was funny," but like that was the first time I was like, "Whoa, Pixar's like going there." Like they're going into like
Yeah.
more mature territory, and I think we're seeing the same thing with Marvel and Star Wars. I think we still, again, like you said, we need to go a little bit further, but I
Yeah.
do think Disney, for a company that has been very like, we're Disney and everything's great in the world and there's no complaints here and everyone's amazing. We
Right.
can't point with one finger, we point with two fingers because that's respectful. It's like,
Right.
yeah, like I think it's a good step in the right direction.
Yeah,
This speech
100%.
and this series in general. And
Yeah,
I'm
a
wondering how much of
100%.
it. I'm wondering how much of it was in the reshoots after the whole COVID, shut down some production and they did a few reshoots. I'm wondering if any of that was added after
After, like,
the Black
2020.
Lives Matter became like this at the forefront of the news.
Mhm.
Obviously this has been around forever, but I think a lot of other people saw it for the first time this past year. Big protests like this. So maybe some of it was rewritten. But if this was originally what was intended before all that happened, like, kudos to Disney for going there, or intending to go there in the first place. I thought that was good.
Yeah, so appropriately, right after this huge speech, Bucky pats, Sam on the shoulder and says, "Nice job, Cap." And
Yes.
I just died even further in that moment.
Yep.
Right after Bucky calling him Cap, another guy calls him Cap, someone that he saw in the building. He says, "Cap, there's, another flag smasher in the Hudson. Like, think you can help us out?" And Sam says, "Always." And I was just,
Mm,
oh, it was like my heart was like in pieces before,
right.
and now this like show slowly like glued it back together, and now it's
Yeah.
like whole again. That's
Mm.
what I have to say about all of
This
this.
was very therapeutical, like of a
Yeah.
show, of just like for the fans and the characters, kind of like, we're finally moving on from Endgame, but we need to resolve these little threads. Wanda and Vision, Sam and Bucky, they are probably the three characters, Wanda, Sam, and Bucky, who are most, I shouldn't say most affected because everyone's affected. Obviously, there are people who
Mhm.
literally died because of it. But I think they are three of the most prominently shook up characters after Infinity War and Endgame. Wanda losing
Mhm.
Vision, and then Falcon, or sorry, Sam and Bucky losing Cap,
Yeah.
and yeah, this is, I think they took this the worst, and I think the only other character who might have also taken it as bad is Spider-Man, and we saw he had
Right.
his movie too. So I think
Yeah.
all these characters that we want to get like this almost therapeutical like closure with, we're getting. And Loki again is the total opposite. This is not Loki. We're not dealing with that. We're going to a totally different time, and that'll be refreshing. Because
Yeah.
now I think we've gotten so heavy with these two series of like, what it feels like to grieve and to move on and to change and to move forward. Now it can be just like, oh, let's have fun in a multiverse.
Yeah, and what's great about this series was that it brought forward a struggle and an issue that Sam has had to always deal with that was
Right.
never at the forefront of his character, you
Hmm.
know? So it
And
was
it was only
something
brought
that
to light by the Cap stuff. Yeah.
exactly. So it was something that we had never seen before. So it was equally as refreshing and therapeutic to watch,
I
even if
agree.
it wasn't, watching him literally get brainwashed by Hydra. It was something that it's still something that's more important to
Hmm.
address.
Yeah.
So it's just, oh, this series just made me so happy. Um, the other flag smashers were being taken to the raft, the ones that John Walker and Bucky kind of captured and led to a SWAT team, or the Navy, it looks like, is written on one of the guy's uniform, because just as he shuts the door, um, he says one world, one people. So then I was like, okay, there it is. That's the little, oh, their storyline's not over yet because these people are going to break them out of the raft. And then boom. And I was like, but well, then why even have that line where he says
well,
one world, one people?
Well, that's the thing, is like that's kind of Zemo's closure, is he has this
Sure.
old man. I thought it was funny that it was
Oh,
just an
his
old guy, just,
butler.
yeah, the butler.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just this old
Okay,
guy
well,
just sitting.
you said old man. I didn't know if you knew like that
No,
it was like
it's just
him.
it's just funny that like this whole truck explodes and then it just pans. It's this old man sitting in the car, just
Yeah.
like it was just
Oh
funny.
yeah.
And honestly, when they panned to him, I was like, is that Steve? Like this whole time, I was waiting for Steve to show up. So every time
You
there was an
think
old man.
Steve blew up a truck, bro?
Well, that's why I was so confused. I was wondering if maybe Steve was like looking on and was like, "Oh, what's going on?" But no, it turned out to be the butler, and he was the one who actually ignited the demolition. And I thought it was funny because, yeah, like you think, oh, the Flag Smashers are going to continue. It's going to be this
Yeah.
bigger thing, and then it's like, nope, it's not. But I do wonder if because that one Navy person was said the same thing, one world, one people. I wonder if that
Um,
means there are more out there. And I think that's
okay.
always kind of the deal with the Hydra and now with the Flag Smashers. I think there will be more out there in some capacity. I think they're leaving that door open. I don't think it's going to be explored right away, but I think they're leaving that door open somewhere.
Okay. All right.
But
I could maybe get behind that. Yes. So
but we
then
got we
we
got the nice shot of Zemo though,
yes,
and
so
it
then we
was,
got a shot
yeah.
of Zemo in the raft, hearing the news report that his plan was carried through and that his butler did his job, and he's able now to like do the rest of his sentence in peace. Basically,
Hmm.
he's like, ah, now
Yeah.
I can kick back and relax with my book.
I was gonna say
Love that
I
guy.
knew this is where I'm giving myself a little kudos again. It's like last week I said there's got to be one last thing with Zemo. I was like, there's no way for them to tease this big character, for him to like get like just okay, yep, I'll go to the raft, hands behind my back. I was like, there's gotta be something
Okay,
there, something
all
left
right,
for him. And I thought he was maybe gonna even show up with the Wakandans, and they're gonna be like, yeah, we need this one last battle. Like we do need to help you. But no, it was just that one little moment. But again, it gave us a little more closure on Zemo, and I loved it.
yeah, yeah, for sure, because his whole goal was taking down super soldiers. So
And he did.
now, besides Bucky, there are no more super soldiers.
There's one.
And John Walker.
Yeah.
Keep forgetting about that guy. He's
Yeah, he took the
forgettable, I know.
serum. Yeah.
Yeah, that
And
he did.
Isaiah. And
That
Isaiah.
he
And
did.
Isaiah.
And Isaiah, you're
Hmm.
right. Okay, so right after that happens, we cut to um John Walker's wife and Valentina.
Julia
Uh
Louis Dreyfus.
yes,
That's
Julia Louis
I'm just gonna
Dreyfus.
call her JLD. I don't care.
JLD, I love that.
Yeah.
So he gets a new uniform from JLD, and he reveals himself to, or she gives him the name US agent. She says things are about to get weird, so they're not going to need a
Yeah.
Captain America. They're going to need a US agent. And
Yeah.
I looked into the character of US agent, but we can talk about him because we're almost
Yeah.
done with the episode.
When we get to each character, because I have a breakdown. Yeah, we can
Sure.
get to him later. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. I'm so impressed that you have so many notes today, Dill.
No, I mean, yeah, I just have like a breakdown of each character, kind of just because at the end of a series, I want to kind of look at each character and how they wrapped up. Because I do think this did a little bit better getting every character closure than WandaVision did. It's not like Darcy running in with a bus and being like, "Is he in prison?" I hated that moment, and y'all know why.
No,
Because I
I
love
know.
Darcy, and they
Mhm,
robbed her of an ending. So
mhm.
so I did like this ending a lot better. In terms of closure for the characters, I still think the WandaVision finale and just the whole series in general was better. But like this, I did like the finale in terms of how they wrapped up each storyline kind of fully. Maybe save for one person that I felt like why didn't you give them a better ending? But we'll get there when we get there.
Sure. So then we cut to Bucky, who is making amends with Yori. He tells him the
Uh,
truth. This honestly, this moment bothered me because it felt rushed. It felt like
I thought the same thing.
it should have taken more time, and we
You
should
know
have
what I wanted?
seen. Tell me.
Go ahead. Oh, okay. I wanted this to be the opening of the episode because I think when Sam and Bucky part, Sam does his training montage and he tells Bucky you got to do the work. So I thought
Mm.
while Sam was training, that
Oh,
was when
okay.
Bucky was going to make amends. Once he makes amends with Yori, then they both show up at the final battle now having gone through this change. Because the thing is Sam goes through this whole
Okay.
montage and then shows up at the battle and Bucky's just there and I was like, "Wait, wasn't Bucky going to make amends with Yori?" And it was kind of confusing. I was like, "Wait, I thought Bucky would have already done that before the battle." And I almost hoped that that would be the opening of the episode. So then at the end, when he kind of walks by the restaurant, he sees Yori is smiling and is happy. He's not,
Mm.
he is still getting to live his life happily.
Yeah.
That could have been the ending scene, and it just felt a little weird having this after because I was like, I wanted Bucky to go through the growth before the final battle, just like Sam went through the growth before the final battle, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Okay.
And I didn't think it was a little rushed because I think they were just trying to like tie up everyone's loose ends
Yeah.
and that was the big looming thing for Bucky. But I think, it would have serviced it better, I think, to have that conversation before the final battle so that when they all say, thanks for saving our life, or, thanks, Bucky, thanks, Sergeant Barnes, like that would have felt more cathartic and he would have really been able to smile because he had finally gotten that weight off his shoulders. But I think with that looming weight of Yori on his shoulders still, he still isn't fully able to smile and embrace that he's helping others until he's done that. So I just would have put it at the beginning of the episode because then I think that propels you into it better than just
Sure.
opening on the flag smashers and all the actions happening. It was the same with WandaVision. It was like episode starts and everything's going on,
Mm. Mhm.
So
Right.
nah, that would have just been if I was an editor, I would have switched it around and made that moment happen earlier, and then like, oh, flag smashers, yeah, we got to go to New York and like,
Yeah.
but,
I also feel like I wanted Yori to be like, okay, like not necessarily say the words like I forgive you, but like just give us some sort of like because I
mm-hmm,
thought because when he opens the door, he goes, "Oh, it's not Wednesday." So we know that they usually meet like every Wednesday. So when Bucky did go to the Chinese food place that they are always eating at, I thought that that was him being like, "Oh, he showed up for our Wednesday get together." So he doesn't hate me and he forgives me even though I ruined his life kind of
right.
thing. But that just like
Um,
wasn't clear. So I wish it was more clear in that sense. That's what bothered me most
Yeah.
about this
When
scene.
when I said I wish they gave the character a little bit more, that was the one I was talking about, Yori, because I do feel like there's a really cool dynamic there with him and Bucky that I think
Mhm.
we got in the first episode and the last episode, but not even in the last episode. It felt like the first episode was really just there to have that moment for the end. And I would have liked Yori to just be a bigger, prominent character. I mean, I get you can't have him go on this side mission to Madripoor and all that stuff, but like I just wish there was something else with them just to give it a little bit more substance. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I hear you, do. But I did have to write this down because Sebastian Stan simply broke my heart as he said it. He says he was murdered by the Winter Soldier, and that was me. And Yori asks him why, and he says, "I didn't have a choice." And I was just,
Yeah.
tears
Um,
again, once again, crying.
yeah.
Uh,
I think there's a way to like relay to him like, yo, I literally had no control. Like I literally was a different person. I was mind control. But then it's like I think Bucky at this point doesn't even want to make the excuses. I think he just wants to get it out there. I don't think he's going to
mhm.
be like, yo, listen, before I tell you this, no, I didn't have any say in it. That would be like the you know, younger Bucky might have, been like, listen, before I tell you this, just know I wasn't in my right mind or whatever. But I think he's just at the point where he just doesn't even want to make the excuse because he's just, just needs
Right.
to get it over with. Yeah.
And then he sends Steve's book to his therapist with all the names crossed off. He says, "Finish the book. Thanks for all your help, Doc." So, we see he's gotten his closure with that. Um, lastly, like my favorite moment of the whole episode, Sam goes to give Isaiah one more
Yeah.
visit. He says, and Sam says, well, first, Isaiah says to him, like, you're special, Sam. Like, you're definitely special. You're no Malcolm Martin or Mandela, but and Sam's like, all right, I get it, I get it. Like, I just wanted to write down those names
Right.
because those are all very prominent Black historical figures. And Sam says, "We built this country, bled for it. I'm not going to let anyone tell me I can't fight for it." And I just, again, one of those great lines that we all need to hear.
100%.
And Sam says, "Oh, come with me. Like, I want to show you something." And we get taken to the Captain America museum. Uh, in That's in Washington D.C. So just like a
Yeah.
quick like train ride to DC
Yeah.
from Baltimore, and we see that Sam somehow got a exhibit for Isaiah Bradley. There's a statue of him with a little plaque about who he was and his accomplishments, and then we end on the title page, Captain America and the Winter Soldier. But not before we have the whole montage of them in New Orleans. And I
Yeah.
loved this moment especially because you just see how this entire community of people are celebrating Sam.
hmm
And it just
Have,
made my heart so happy.
it's the Return of the Jedi moment. Have you seen Return of the Jedi? Have you seen the
No,
Star Wars movies? Okay.
no.
So at the end of Return of the Jedi, there's this
Well,
huge
don't tell me the
celebration.
end of Return of the Jedi. I might watch
Okay,
them.
you might watch them, but they're.
For those of you listening, it's like the
I will not.
Return of the Jedi moment.
Yeah,
And that's all that
it's
needs to
this.
be said.
Kelsey, if you want to like take your headphones off, I will explain for our listeners what I'm getting. And if you don't listen to if you haven't seen the Star Wars movies, I will give a wave when I'm done. Okay, I'll give a wave when I'm done, Kelsey.
Okay.
Okay. So at the end of Return of the Jedi, there's this huge celebration. Can you hear me? No. Okay.
I'm not talking. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I was just copying you. I can't hear what you're saying.
Great. So anyway, Kelsey has her headphones off. But it's this huge celebration, and it kind of reminded me of Return of the Jedi because at the end you have this moment of Sam looking out at the water, and then Bucky kind of comes up behind them and like puts his hand on his shoulder. It was exactly the same moment of Luke looking out and seeing the ghosts, and I was expecting honestly in that moment that maybe like Tony and Sam and Steve and Natasha would be just standing there like as ghosts. Like I knew it wasn't gonna happen, but it was just so funny because it's literally parallels of Bucky walking up behind and putting the hand on his shoulder, and then like them looking out in the sea. I was like, this is literally the end of Return of the Jedi. Like it was a great moment. I did enjoy it because like how do you end a big long series of either movies or episodes? I think ending in this celebration was a really good way to end both of those things, and I just saw those parallels. So go back and watch Return of the Jedi, and then watch the end of this finale, and it's pretty close, spot on. All right, I'm done, Kelsey. I'm done. I was just saying to look at both the ending of Return of the Jedi and this, and it's very similar endings, but that's all.
I
Like
feel like
literal
you kept that
parallels.
going longer than necessary just to make me look
No,
like an idiot.
no. I explained exactly what I meant. I'm not a
Oh,
man
okay.
of many. I am a man of many words. I tend to use too many words to explain things that could be explained in far less words. So
Oh, don't I know it, Dill?
yeah, Kelsey knows it.
So
that's why these episodes are longer than an hour, not an hour. Because originally when we tried to do this podcast, I was like,
yeah.
we'll aim for an hour, and then it never has been an hour because I just keep talking.
But I feel like most podcasts aren't an hour. And I
Right, but
honestly,
it's
when like I feel like they all kind of like fall in between like an hour, 2 hour range. It's supposed to be like a conversation, like whatever.
right.
So I've never stressed about that. But I
It's
know
more
you.
it's more for my sake uploading them. It takes a longer time. But
Okay.
that's just me
All right.
being.
Now the truth comes out every time we hit the hour mark. I can
the
feel
Oscar
you
for
getting
laziest person in the world goes to me.
You get so mad at me. You're seething every time we get to around an hour. You're sitting there going, "All right, anything else you want to add?" Like, blah, blah. I'm like, wait, I have so much more to say.
Yeah, keep going, Kelsey.
Thank you. Well,
We
now
have credits.
Yes, post credit.
And here's the thing. Last week we said I never tell you when there's a post credit scene anymore. Well, guess what?
Okay,
people?
You missed 1 week, and I was mad.
I missed 1 week. I just want to say, you'll see in this picture also Kelsey's response, as she said to the Shang-Chi trailer, was always that looks sick. But I just want you all to see there is a post credit scene. I did tell her, look at the time. 3:54 a.m.
3:54 a.m.
Episode ends, and immediately I texted Kelsey. So everyone who is on my case, which is just one person, and that's you.
Yeah.
To all the one person who was on my case about that, I have remedied that mistake.
Yes, you redeemed yourself.
I can cross Kelsey's name off my journal.
Yes, you can. I forgive you. Yeah, so we see Sharon gets pardoned. We see Sharon get Please don't spit out your water.
Just like split in half.
No, we see Sharon gets pardoned by the US government. They offer her old job back at the CIA. As she's doing this for a split second, I was like, this girl's gonna say no. She's not even gonna take it. She's gonna say no. And then she says yes. And I'm like, oh, because she's gonna do naughty things in the CIA. So as she leaves the Capitol building or whatever building it was, I think it was a Capitol building. She gets on the phone and is like, oh, we're about to have all access to weapons prototypes, a bunch of team people in the CIA. Like, our job's going to be crazy. And
we love a villain reveal after a villain reveal.
Yeah. So that was the finale of the Falcon Winter Soldier. I don't think we even said the name of the episode at any point.
You said the title of the show wrong, Kelsey. It's Captain America and the Winter Soldier.
Okay, it's Captain America and the Winter Soldier, but to be fair...
No, I know.
It on Disney Plus, it's still Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
And I think it will be. I think it will be because there's a theory about sorry, I'll let you get back to your thought in a sec, but I just want to get to this title. I think there's a theory out there. Some people are saying that Captain America and the Winter Soldier is like the true title of this series. But some people are saying that is going to be the name of the next series or the next movie with Sam and Bucky. Because as we saw, this was not our news, but they did announce Captain America 4 is greenlit in Marvel. So it's going to happen. So I'm wondering if that will be called Captain America and the Winter Soldier. The only problem is there's already a movie called Captain America and the Winter Soldier.
Oh.
So it's like you're instead of a colon, you're adding an and. So I don't know exactly if this is just kind of like a little nod, like, no, this has been the title all along. Or if it's like, no, this is what's coming. Yeah, it could be either one. So I don't really know. But
I just wanted to say we never said the actual title of the episode, which was One World, One People. That's all.
I didn't even know that was the title because I just watched it. I wanted as least
Do you
amount
not
of spoilers.
read?
I wanted as least amount of spoilers as possible, so I just clicked the episode and I was like, I don't even want to see the thumbnail, and that's what happened.
You blow my mind on a daily basis still with your thoughts.
I even rewatched it and didn't even
live life.
Yeah, I didn't even notice. So do we want to go? Yeah, do we want to go character? Yeah, it's Monday morning. We're delirious. Kelsey's getting her second shot today, though. Everyone, give a woot woot if you're out there. Woot woot.
Well, I got my second shot on Saturday.
Yes, she's getting her. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. Well. Are we pretending it's Monday, or are we telling them it's all been a lie? We never film on Mondays, people. We always film days before.
I did acknowledge that the set behind me was still Oscar-fied because I still have Oscar stuff to film. So I did kind of like make the illusion that it was not Monday. It was Saturday. But anyway, Kelsey got her shot Saturday. We're very proud of her. Thank you for your service, Kels. Um,
You're
let's.
welcome. Anything I can
You're
do
doing
for
your
my community.
exactly. You're doing your service. We all are.
Doing my part as an American, as we all should.
And if you are for some reason not wanting the vaccine or not able to get the vaccine, wear your mask. That does your part too. Um,
I agree.
all right. So let's go character by character and just kind of talk about just their overall season arc and what we think. Like, if we thought they had a good ending. Not we don't have to spend much time on each of them. Sam's the first one on my list. We talked a lot about Sam. I think this was a
Yeah.
good way of like. I think Sam is probably the most fleshed out character at the end of the series in terms of they got the most closure for him. They did a great arc with him of not wanting to be Captain America, then getting the title. I think Sam. I loved what they did with him in this finale and this whole series.
Mhm. Yeah, no, what? Was there a question in there?
No, we're going character by character and giving our
Oh,
thoughts.
okay, yeah, I love
I mean,
Sam's
yeah,
arc. I mean, we all knew where it was going with Sam. That's the only thing that I would have to complain about, if
yeah.
that's
If you had to
even a
nitpick,
complaint at
yeah.
all. But, yeah, I mean, I'm just so excited that we watched him really grow as a character and a human being, and
Mhm.
I'm so excited to see where he goes next.
All right, Bucky. I thought Bucky had a great arc as well. I don't think his arc is as much of a focus of the series. I think this focus of the series was more for Sam than Bucky himself,
Mhm.
because Bucky has been dealing with this for a while. Sam has also been dealing with these issues around this concept of race. But I think Bucky himself has had this whole like I need to like get rid of that Winter Soldier stuff off my shoulders. He's been dealing with that for a few movies now, so for him to finally get that closure is good. Again, I would have liked him and Yuri to have that conversation maybe earlier in the episode, so like he felt that closure before that last battle because I felt like Sam got that before the last battle, his kind of closure.
Mhm.
Um, and acceptance. He had that conversation with Isaiah before the battle. He had that montage before the battle. So for Bucky to like have to still go through the battle and then still have work to do, it was
Mm.
almost like the epilogue. The epilogue felt like it felt like an epilogue after the battle. After Carly died, it felt like an epilogue, and I felt like Bucky's wasn't really an epilogue. It was really just still also finishing his story. But I thought what they did with Bucky was great. Sebastian Stan's amazing.
Sebastian Stan was so good in this series.
Hmm.
Like he just like really killed it. I mean, I always thought that he was a good actor, but like this series especially, like he was the standout for me, like acting
Oh,
wise, just like pure acting.
yeah.
It's so many moments broke my heart. Like I said, I love Bucky, need happy Bucky back in my life. I just want him to be happy and for him to be fixed. And yeah, also can't wait to see what happens next in Bucky's chapter.
So moving on to my favorite performance in the whole series,
Okay.
because it's easy if you are a very charismatic guy. It is very easy to play a likable character because you already have half of the work done for you. But I think it's even arguably harder for a charismatic guy to play evil and to play
Mm.
a villain that is so despicable that he gets hate messages, but then he's able to take those hate messages and make videos
Oh.
saying I love it, guys. Keep bringing it at me, and that is why John Walker. I mean, Wyatt Russell
Mm.
is my favorite performance in the series because I just think for him to be this villain that is just so despicable, he just nailed it, and he got those moments of vengeance. Great. I think John Walker's character up till this episode was the best character arc in terms of like they executed exactly what they needed for that character, and it worked. It was 100% effective. The problem is that last episode I felt weird. It was weird that Carly and the Flag Smashers kind of like Carly died, and it was this big death, and it was supposed to, it made this statement and stuff. But John Walker got some sort of redemption, but then he didn't get redemption because at the
Mhm.
end he's also a U.S. agent. It just felt a
Yeah.
little weird because John Walker this whole time has had opportunities where he gets hit down to like the lowest of lows and then has had the opportunity to kind of walk away like he did and accept it, but it's not until he shows up to this battle and gets his shield, broken that he's able to be like, okay, yeah, I gotta stop. I just figured if they were gonna do that, they would have just done that when he got beat by Sam and Bucky. When he got his arm broken, like that was where I was like, oh, maybe this is where he's finally gonna be like, all right, I'm done. Um,
Right.
and they made it in this battle, and it just felt, again, I think, rushed, and for him to then just start like making quips with Bucky and Sam, it just felt a little too quick. And I know the whole point of Sam is like Captain America, he's forgiving, but also at the same
Yeah.
time, it's like for them to just be like, all right, John Walker, like let's go, you're our number three. It just felt a little weird. And I think I would have liked them to maybe, you know. I do like how he's still carrying over into the future now. I wouldn't have liked his character to die, but it was a little weird that like Carly was the one who died and like had this big, story, and like John Walker is the one who gets a little bit of redemption in this episode. It felt weird that they were trying to redeem him this late. And then the redemption wasn't fully seen through because of the Julia Louis Dreyfus scene. It was
Yeah.
just weird for me.
It was weird. I exactly, like, I feel like he should have had nothing to do with the battle itself. Like, I feel like he should have either just, like, been constantly, like, with, Julia Louis-Dreyfus and, planning whatever they're gonna do next and getting the suit, whatever, so it could maybe cut to, like, "Oh, this is what he's been up to, teaser for future stuff.
Yeah,
Let's get back to the action," kinda thing, but they involved him, and we didn't even know really why he was there because in my mind, he is there to avenge Lamar's death, but in the last episode he's telling us that he did that and that he killed the guy who killed Lamar. So if he knows it's not
yeah,
the guy who killed Lamar, why are you telling people that you killed Lamar's killer if you're going to go after Carly anyway?
right.
It was just,
Yeah,
yeah, his character got very like wishy-washy at the end kind of
yeah.
thing.
It was just weird. Like, why again? Like, yeah, you're showing up to this battle. We've already got Sharon and Carly as like our kind of antagonists. Like, do we really need to add John Walker to that mix? And what did that add to it? I feel like anything that happened with John Walker kind of having any sort of change could have happened in the battle before. And you could have still had him end up at this point with the U.S. agent, and he's still a little bit bitter. But like, I don't know. It just didn't work for me in this episode. But again, everything up to this episode was, I think, executed perfectly. I think he was a really fun character to hate.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
so now we're moving on to Carly herself, and I thought this was a very interesting performance. I think the first few episodes, as we talked about, like I just didn't get enough from her, especially with the mother who dies.
Mama
Not the
Don
mo-
Mama Donya
Danya,
Donya.
yeah. Like, I just felt like there was just not enough of that to where I didn't really care, but in the last few episodes, they really fleshed her character out more. I
Mhm.
thought she got a good death sequence. I honestly felt like that was almost a little rushed itself. I
Mm,
would have liked for her and Sam to have maybe one last moment before she died, a little bit more conversation there. Um,
sure.
yeah, but I thought, her character was interesting.
What I thought was weird about her death was, like, a moment before she was dying, she was literally about to kill Sam, like, she was about to
Yeah,
shoot Sam, and now all of a sudden she's dying in his arms and saying, "I'm sorry," for, like, whatever she's apologizing for. It's like, really, it took you a split second to go back on everything that you've been doing to, like,
yeah,
to see Sam's side in all of this and, like, apologize to him. It was a weird moment. I mean,
and
I enjoyed her as the kind of villain or antagonist really of the series just because, she's one of those, like we've been saying from the beginning, we understand where she's coming from. We understand what she's fighting
mhm,
for. She's not just pure
yeah,
evil. There's, a real issue with all of these displaced people coming back after 5 years that we
yeah,
didn't even think would be an issue because after Endgame we were just so excited to have everyone back. But to the rest of the
mhm,
world it's like, "Oh, but then I also thought at some point during this episode, I'm like, okay, half the planet's gone, right? Why are you moving into someone else's house? Like, what?
yeah, yeah,
I didn't understand that. They were like, "What
yeah,
do you wanna do with, like, all the people who've moved into other people's houses?" I'm like, "Why did they leave their own house to begin with?" Like, maybe it was for, like, homeless people, like, they finally got the opportunity for, like, a house, I guess, but, like, I don't know.
yeah. Yeah, that was yeah, I agree with all that. Isaiah, I thought this was a really interesting inclusion. I do think this would have been the character that if they had had a shorter movie, if it was just a movie, I think this stuff would have kind of gone more of a sideline because I think they would have really wanted to focus on the Flag Smashers and Sharon and Zemo, and I think Isaiah himself was really important to Sam's story. Um, and I really I love the character. I think it was a really amazing arc, and I do think at the end it was still nice how he still had his disagreements and still
Mhm.
had he didn't change completely. His opinions didn't change, but he
Mhm.
did at least respect what Sam was doing. And that moment, I mean, that is a great moment to end the series on because it
Mhm.
really felt like a culmination of everything this series was trying to say. It was like of all the things we want you to take away, this is the main thing we want you to take away. And I think that was a beautiful moment, and to almost see like Isaiah and Yuri as kind of these identical, like these are the older, even though
Father
Bucky's kind of the same,
figures.
even though Bucky's technically older than Yuri, but
Yeah.
like this these older people who are kind of like for Bucky it's important because like he has wronged him, and Sam feels like he needs to like make something up for him. I just felt like it was a
Mhm.
really great inclusion. I think Isaiah was great, and the acting performance is just ridiculously good.
Yeah. It
um
was just such a smart move including him in all of this. Like really like going into the depths of the comic books and pulling out like such
right.
an important character who was an important character in the comics but also still relevant to everything that's going on today. And it was just so
Hmm.
smart to include him. I'm so glad they did, and I'm so glad that Sam, like you said, he wasn't completely less bitter, like he has like 50 years of discrimination and oppression to really, for good reason to be the way that he is, kind of thing. But I think it's important that he kind of, gave Sam like the almost like the stamp of approval to be the next Captain
Yeah.
America, which I think was
Mhm.
important for both of the characters
Yeah.
to come to terms with.
Mhm. The next character, your favorite, Mr. Zemo, Mr. Helmet Zemo,
Mhm.
Mr. Battern Zemo.
Daddy
I,
Zemo.
I I loved what they did in terms of bringing him in. Honestly, I would have liked to see a little bit more of him fighting with that mask on because that mask is on the poster. He was in the trailer. He was just, I was
Mm,
expecting him to be a bigger action part of it. But again, like I liked his use in the series. I liked how he again didn't necessarily stray from his ways, but did still, do what he knew he needed to do, but still never really lost sight of like what he believed in. I liked how he had that little last moment at the end because it does give you that closure. It's like he didn't just go away in handcuffs for so easily. Like he still had one last laugh.
right.
And I think that's a great thing to do for someone who is a villain, but also not really a villain in this series. Is like it's like Loki almost in a lot of the series is like giving
Mm,
that last laugh. Even
mhm.
though you're not the main villain, you're giving that last laugh. So I loved his performance too. Daniel Bruhl is great. Kelsey, thoughts on Zemo? I know you loved him.
Well, obviously I said everything that I needed to say about during our Power Broker episode. I loved him a lot. I also loved how, they really made it seem like he was going to be, back to his own like real villainous ways, like trying to tear apart the Avengers kind of mindset. But, he turned out to be the weird glue that Sam and Bucky needed to really make their team
Hmm.
possible. And I just loved that he kind of got this redemption in his character to, do what's right without really super straying away from what his goal has been from the beginning, which is to
Hmm.
get rid of like any kind of supremacist in his mind at
Yeah,
all. So
yeah.
loved him.
Um,
Loved him. 10 out of 10.
Now we have Joaquin. Joaquin was interesting because I think the first few episodes set him up to be a much bigger character than he ended up being. I would
Mm,
have liked to see a little bit more from him in the finale because also he does have those wings. I would have liked maybe even a post credit scene of him like
reconstructing them.
reconstructing them, yeah, because
Yeah.
we know where it's going. But now that Sam has the wings, also, I don't know if they're going to go into New Falcon anytime soon. But I did like him as like this little side character to Sam. But again, same with Yori. It felt like once they went off to the Madripoor mission, it was like those characters back home. Even Sarah, they were able to bring through with a phone call, but like Joaquin and Yori kind of got sidelined, and I
Mm,
kind of grouped them together because they are kind of like those sidekicks to Bucky and Sam in their own homes.
sure.
But yeah, it just I wish we got a little bit more of Joaquin, but yeah,
Yeah, I like him. I think we are gonna get more of him. They
yeah.
don't really Marvel doesn't leave any stone unturned, I think. So I don't think that his story is over.
No. All right, and then we have JLD, who you have her real name. I don't remember it. Julia Louis
Con
Dreyfus'
Yeah,
character.
I can tell you what it is. Just give me 1 second. Ow! I just scratched myself with my mechanical pencil.
While you're looking, I mean, I like the character. I think it was good. We got a good enough amount of her to get excited about her in the future, but it didn't overwhelm the series. Whereas, like, it wasn't taking away from the main narrative. It was almost like after every big moment, she was kind of there as like a little extra tidbit to be like, oh, but there's more. But it wasn't like overwhelming the rest of the series, which I liked. And again, to get Julia Louis Dreyfus in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I mean, you're also going to have Olivia Colman and Emilia Clarke, as we said, coming into this. Like, they are getting the caliber. They are getting, now it's like, these are like, you think about the Avengers themselves, like, aside from like Robert Downey Jr. and maybe like Mark Ruffalo, but like, Jeremy Renner was like a big actor, but hadn't really blown up. Chris Evans hadn't like blown up. Anthony Mackie hadn't blown up. But these MCU shows and movies have made them big stars. But now, because the MCU is so established, now they don't need to like worry about getting these, up and comers and making them stars. Now they can get stars and bring them in. And that's what we're
Mm,
seeing with like Julia Louis Dreyfus. And then again with like Russell Crowe coming into Thor Love and Thunder, Christian Bale coming into Thor Love and Thunder. I really like how they're expanding their casting and really giving these moments. I mean, this almost felt like the Jeff Goldblum of Thor Ragnarok. Like Julia
mm,
Louis Dreyfus here is like
mhm.
getting little moments, and like we're gonna see more of them in the future, and like it's just so exciting using their comedic talents.
Yeah. Her name is Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine.
There we go. I will
That's her
never
name.
remember that.
AKA, or you can just refer to her as Madame Hydra. That seems to be the mantle she's taking on. So,
Yeah.
Madame
So
Hydra.
what are your thoughts on her, and does this mean that John Walker is then essentially still a bad guy? Like I'm still
Yeah.
confused.
I think that he's a bad guy. I looked into the US agent character very briefly before we started in my Marvel encyclopedia. And thing the only real difference is that the power broker makes him the US agent. So he kind of takes up this he works for what is known as the Dark Avengers during this time period in the comic books called the Dark
Gotcha.
Reign. Um so that's what he's doing as the US agent. I predict that he's just going to be doing jobs for Hydra and for all these evil people, whatever organization Valentina Allegra de Fontaine is running. I'm super excited for this introduction of a character for her. Huh? I'm super excited for this introduction of a character. Just because, like I said, when she first appeared on screen, I'm like, she's just like a comedy icon and legend to me. I think that,
Mhm.
she's definitely like one of my influences, I'd say.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
yes, so
It shows, Kelsey.
oh my God, that is such a compliment.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Can you guess who my influence? I'm kidding. I don't have one. I don't really know.
Oh,
I don't know.
you don't have a comedic influence or like an actor influence in your life?
I don't know.
Is it Jim
We'll get there.
Carrey?
I mean, performance wise, I mean, I don't think anyone could live up to that. But he's got some views that I don't necessarily line up with. Well, yeah, we'll talk
Jim
about.
Carrey is
Yeah,
problematic?
in some way, just
This is
we'll
the
get off.
first I'm hearing of this.
We'll get into it off the air. I don't want to
Okay.
bash Jim Carrey because he is my favorite actor. Like in terms of a pure performance standpoint, like he is the talent that I think all comedians should try to rise. Him and Robin Williams are the two.
Mhm. For
In
sure.
terms of just acting, though, I really don't know. I got to think about that. And lastly, we have Sharon.
Oh, yeah.
This was the character I was most underwhelmed by,
Yeah.
just because I feel like we didn't get enough of her earlier on in the MCU. So when her reveal came, it was like, oh, cool, Sharon's back. But then they made it seem like it was a bigger deal than it actually needed to be. And obviously, she ends up being the power broker. But I feel like they still needed to give her a little bit more in this series to make us really like either stunned at the fact that she's been playing us all along and she's the power broker, or give us a reason to be like, ooh, she's a power broker, like she's evil. But they didn't give her enough in this series to make me feel any way or another about it when she said it. I mean, we had seen it coming, but even if we hadn't seen it coming, I would have been like, okay, like she's a power broker.
Yeah.
Like it didn't really
Yeah.
have the same impact as like Agatha being like, even though we knew that was coming, like
It
that
was
reveal was
Agatha
so
all along.
right.
Sorry, I was just
It
singing
was
her
just like
theme song.
yeah. I just when that reveal happened, it was so cool,
Yeah.
and here it's like it's whatever, you know. I just think she should have they should have given her a little bit more. I'm excited to see where they take her again. Like I think this
Mhm.
is another character where like I didn't love what they did with her, but I think they're gonna take her in different interesting directions. It's just again, a part of me I just have never really we didn't really tap into her yet as a
Mhm.
character, so it's hard to even have this big reveal when we really just don't know enough about her on her own.
Mhm.
But anyway, what were your thoughts?
No, I agree. I don't think that she got enough. I'm excited because I feel like they really are leading her up to be like, if not like the main villain, I could see her being like literally the main villain of like Captain the next Captain America 4. I feel like that would be so interesting to see that dynamic between Sam
Yeah,
realizing like, "Oh, I did you this favor. I got you pardoned and you're still doing like all this shady shit. Like what a stab in the back, you know?"
yeah,
I appreciated a lot of people when they first saw her on screen thought that she was just kind of gonna be like one of their girlfriends that she was just gonna be like either cuffed by Sam or Bucky, either one, and it was just gonna get weird. And I appreciate the fact that they didn't just like make her a girlfriend, because Marvel has a tendency to just like not, as I've said time and time again, not do
yeah.
super well with writing women and female arcs and characters in the MCU. But so I'm even though they didn't handle this one as well as the others in the past, I'm excited to see where it goes for
All right.
her.
So that's Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or Captain America and the Winter Soldier, whatever you want to call it. We're gonna call it, for the sakes of this YouTube video, to not spoil for anyone else, we will call it the Falcon and the Winter Soldier episode 8 or episode 6 review. I keep
Yeah.
saying 8 because I feel like 6 just isn't a lot, but we only got 6.
Yep, that we
Yeah.
did.
So that's it. So let's tease next week because, as we know, we're going in the off season. We do not have any Marvel until, what is the date for Loki, Kels?
June 11th.
June 11th.
I'm
So
gonna tattoo that on your arm. That is like the fifth time I had to tell you on air and off air.
all right. June 11th is Loki. So we have 6 weeks, I think. If we did our math wrong, we'll get rid of one of the episodes, I guess. But we can condense. But we are planning two big things. One, March was full of WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier crossover, and we really wanted to do our villains ranking, so we didn't get a chance to do this in March. So we can't call it March Madness, but we're going to call it May Madness. And basically, what we're going to do is we are going to take a 64 team bracket, just like the basketball tournament. And instead of teams, we are going to put 64 Avengers in a bracket, and we are going to decide who wins each matchup, and we will ultimately come up with a winner for the best Avenger. And here's how it's going to work. We're basically going to talk about it very briefly because, again, like, that's a lot of Avengers to get through, but we're going to give our basic thoughts, and we're each going to pick a favorite. And if we disagree, we're going to a coin flip. And if the coin speaks, the coin speaks. That's how we'll do it. And we will eventually pick a winner for our favorite Avenger of all time. It's not going to be the best. We're not going to say, like, Hulk could step on Baby Groot. Like, we're not going to play it that way. We're going to play it, so, power might be factored in, but it's going to be our favorites. Who is our
Yeah.
favorite Avengers?
Oh,
Um,
okay.
eh, yeah, it makes more sense because if we go by best, like, there are very clearly more people who are just physically just more
Like
powerful. But
like strongest.
yeah, like if we went
Okay.
strongest, it's like it kind of narrows it down to a good select 6 or 7 that are like stronger than the rest. But we want to make it more, to the taste of the audience and the taste of us. Like, who is our favorite Avenger? And we're basically going to do a May Madness bracket. That'll be our
Okay.
next show. And then after that, we are deciding to jump into a completely non MCU related topic, and that is X-Men. We are very excited. I have not seen all the X-Men movies. Kelsey has. She just recently watched them all, but I have not seen a lot of the X-Men movies. I've seen maybe like 3 or 4, and then the Deadpools, which we will talk about as well. But I have not really seen a ton. I love Logan. I love Deadpool, but I have not seen I have not seen any of the new X-Men movies with Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy. I've not seen. I've only seen one of the original 3 with Hugh Jackman. I don't even remember which one I've seen. I've not seen the other X-Men Origins or the Wolverine movies. Like, I've
No,
only
okay.
seen a very select few, and I haven't seen the new ones, New Mutants or Dark Phoenix. So we are deciding to break it up into 5 episodes. So the first episode we will be doing is the OG trilogy, which is X-Men, X2, X-Men: The Last Stand. And then the next episode we will be doing is the Young trilogy, which is X-Men First Class, X-Men Days of Future Past, and X-Men Apocalypse. Then the episode after that, we will be doing the Wolverine trilogy, which is X-Men Origins Wolverine, The Wolverine, and Logan. Then after that, we will be doing the 2 Deadpool movies, Deadpool and Deadpool 2, and then after that we will be doing the 2 movies that we say sank the X-Men franchise, which is Dark Phoenix and the New Mutants. Not necessarily because of how bad they are, even though they might be. I have not seen them, but
Mm,
because that is when the Fox deal went through, and basically Fox was like, "Well, if Disney's buying us anyway, then here are the last 2 movies. This is what we got for you." And they were not very well critically received. So those are going to be
mm.
the episodes we do after this. So May Madness, X-Men original trilogy, new trilogy, Wolverine trilogy, Deadpool, and then the movies that sank the X-Men verse, and then we're back in Loki. So we have got it planned out for you. We are so excited. So if you want to watch along with us for the X-Men stuff, we will always, of course, tease what the next movie is going to be. We are going 3 at a time because that is probably the easiest way to binge them, so we don't have to watch them all in one sitting, so we can actually digest them. We'll give our overall thoughts, kind of recapping the movies, and then giving just our thoughts on what our favorite scenes are, characters, what we think, how we think they've held up, because some of them are older, all that stuff. It's just going to be basically just an open talk discussion about X-Men, which is going to be cool. So next week we'll have that bracket for you, and we cannot wait to break it down. I can't wait for that. Kelsey, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Kelsey A. Kilpatrick. You can find me on TikTok at Cause13, or you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, um, Cause Productions.
Cool. And you can find me at Dylan_Randazzo. You can find me at Dylan Randazzo 417 on TikTok. And here's a fun tidbit. I did say I'd post a TikTok. I finally did post a TikTok. It was a singing TikTok the other day, just singing a song. It was honestly, as I was waiting awake to watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I was like, I'm so tired and I'm gonna fall asleep. I need to find something to do. And I played at the piano and I sang something. So I was like, sure thing. Um,
Amazing.
so I did post a TikTok, so go check that out. TikTok, don't be too harsh. I'm no Josh Groban, but I try. Um,
Aw, Dill.
YouTube, Dill Pickle Movie Network. The Pickle Awards were last week. A lot of fun. Kelsey was a presenter. Go check those out. There's tons of Oscar stuff. You saw a few days ago I posted my Oscar predictions, and then we will have an Oscar reaction video coming out right after this video. Right after this video ends, I will post another video, which is my reactions to last night's Oscar ceremony. And then a few days from now, I will be having my episode of Picture This, which is my monthly show where I talk about Best Picture nominees. I will be sitting down with Chadwick Webb talking about all 8 of the nominees from this past Oscars, talking a little bit about the Oscars itself as well. And then before the month wraps, I have an episode of Frame Wreck coming out, which is a show all about bad movies. We were doing Birdemic. Me and Matt are covering Birdemic, which is one of the worst movies ever made. I have yet to rewatch it yet in prep for that episode, and I'm dreading it. So we have a lot of great stuff, and then of course we're here every Monday here at Marvel-ous Movie Mondays. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Any last words, Kels?
No.
All right. All right, everyone. Let me just exit. Oh, okay. I need to get the theme song ready so I can play us out. All right. Thanks, guys. See you next week for the May Madness 64 Avenger bracket.